This podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice. It exists to inform and to entertain. Alba.
You gotta listen, you don't have to read. For historians.
Welcome, everyone. This is Poor Historians, a podcast misadventuring into the archives of medical history and beyond. Each show, we dissect a history of medicine topic from the past to learn a little something about how medicine got to be the way it is today. I'm Dr. Max, and I'm joined here by my good friends and colleagues, Dr. Aaron.
Oh, hi. Is that my cue? That's my cue. Hi. Hi, everybody.
And Dr. Mike.
Hi.
As well as our medical history intern extraordinaire, Alba.
Hello there.
Ooh, it's Obi-Wan.
She was like on the mark. Oh, yeah. He always does say hello there, doesn't he?
She gets to go last,
Hello
so it's a lot
there.
easier for her to be, on time
to be
there.
ready, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my excuse.
Well, as we're well into December now, is everybody ready to get hygge as winter sets in?
What's Huga?
I'm always Huga, Max.
I think Aaron has to explain hygge.
It's like, what is
What's
that?
your Danish?
Horny
Not Danish.
on or under general anesthesia? Is it an acronym?
No. It's like HYGGE, I think.
Oh.
It's just happy, cozy time, basically. Isn't that
Yeah,
what
it's
it is?
basically
essentially?
making your surroundings cozy and content and enjoy, like,
Yeah.
especially during winter it comes up because you know, everybody
Because it's always winter in
belly aches
Denmark.
about the winter. Yeah, well, it comes from
What's
Denmark, I think.
Mhm.
Danish word.
Yeah, it's a Danish word. Famously the happiest people.
See, there you go.
That's the only way to survive the cold and the lack of light, the lack of sunlight, is to just like surround myself with as much cozy stuff as I can.
See,
Is it
that's a
certain?
It's Huga?
I've got a lot of hygge.
Go to a
Nice.
Huga bar?
I got a hygge. My whole apartment's a hygge.
Well, before we get going, let's take a moment to say a few words about our sponsor, Artery Inc. Do you love your insides? I'm not talking about feelings or emotions, but your literal inside organs. Well, you should, and Artery Inc. can help with that. With their anatomy-inspired clothing and apparel, you can wear artistic renderings of your insides on your outside and show your love for your most favorite organs. To see what I'm talking about, we encourage you to go over to www.arteryinc.com, that's spelled I-N-K, and browse their selection of items. Christmas is coming up, so what better time to go check out what they have. If you purchase over $35, use promo code HistoryPod to save 10% on your order, and note that it does not work on subscription boxes. So with that, let's get back to the show.
All right. Well, before we get started, I have a couple shout outs. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So first one is kind of a mea culpa. I accidentally scooped one of our listeners. And because of that, I had a very bad shift because she refused to work with me almost. Apparently, somebody sent in a Mike's mailbag question about the history of CPR. And then I did the history of CPR. So she was very mad. So to Melissa, I'm very sorry. I don't see the emails.
You actually
I didn't
scooped
do it
two
on
people.
purpose.
I don't know if you knew that, but there was a listener who the day after you did that episode, they had sent in a Mike's mailbag question about the face of the CPR dummy.
Oh.
And the interesting thing is that episode ran so long, I had to cut a ton of it. And so I cut that part out, but then I actually wrote to the listener and said, hey, I'm going to make you a special video and put it on social media. So I did that.
Oh,
So I
nice.
saved you that one.
Well, that's cool. Thank you.
'Cause
Yeah,
you
the
know,
other one, I
honestly,
just suffered.
I would have gotten that one right.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
that too. I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Second shout out, the idea and everything for today comes from a longtime listener, friend of the show, Eric, who handed me an article for this show, which is always great. So yeah, he checks my work normally, and now he's doing my podcast episodes for me. So I just think I'm going to
Nice.
We shall
keep going
take it.
with that.
Oh, that's fair. I think we can work those in. Well, speaking of Mike's trivia, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who did send us all the questions for the giveaway and the contest. We had quite a bit of submissions. Everything was, everybody was really great in participating. And so, but we had to finally award a winner because with all those people sending in everything, there has to be one winner. And we did announce it on social media, as it were, but I'm happy to say here again that the one listener who, after we used all the power of technology to select that one winner, the prize went to Tyler, who emerged victorious from the pile. Was pretty stoked about it. And so hope you enjoy what you have won. But I thought it was probably fitting to use that question for today's show. So I hope you are ready, Mike.
Wait, he didn't already submit it? This is a new...
No, this is the question he submitted. This was his entry question. And so I figure we have to use it here.
Heck yeah. I'm all in favor of quizzing Mike.
All right. Well,
I already
Mike,
know what it is.
Do you?
Yep.
Okay.
And the answer is Stockholm, 1939. Final
Okay,
answer.
might as well
Lock
start
it in.
No, I was going to say, is it even close? No. All right, here's the question. And this is kind of like very recent medical history, but I mean, technically happened in the past, so it is medical history. In 2023, the Nobel Prize for Medicine was awarded to two scientists for their work on mRNA, which paved the way for the most successful COVID vaccines that were used. And these folks are credited with helping save millions of lives. Can you name the two individuals and when and where they met?
So it was Watson and Crick. These are two, they're actually clones of the geneticists that discovered DNA, or the double helix. They worked on the mRNA sections of the vaccine, but they were really focused on the tracking beacon. So they're the ones that put the tracking beacon into the vaccine. Watson and Crick, Stockholm, Sweden, 1939. Final answer.
If you're going to be wrong, be spectacularly wrong. I appreciate that very much. And
Is that something I should know? I don't really watch the news.
I would honestly. I was aware of the prize being
like,
but if you put it would be.
I should have come up. Well, maybe it was like Dr. Peter goes into you and something else.
Well, here's the real answer. So it is Catalin Carrico and Drew Weissman, who were awarded the prize for their work on the mRNA technology needed to make the vaccine. They happened to have met in 1998. That part I'm surprised you didn't know. I mean, I figured that was the common knowledge. They met at the University of Pennsylvania. And so, like I said, maybe a recent medical history, but according to the latest estimates, they think they may have saved about 14.4 million lives with that vaccine, so worldwide, that is. So I figured...
Is that their number?
That was, where was that?
I'm pretty sure we saved at least 10 million, maybe 20. I don't know.
We're
dorks.
There you go. So I'm going to say Mike did fail that one.
So it wasn't Watson and Crick's clones.
It wasn't.
Me. I don't believe you.
So, well,
I saw it on Reddit.
Send me countermanding sources and we'll go.
Oh, there
there
are countermanding sources. All right.
Sure there are.
Screenshot Facebook.
Mike, do your research. So the more
your own research, Mike. Do your own.
That's right. All right. So that means we have to award Tyler his eponym. And so there happens to be something, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, called Tyler's Rule. And so they're going to now. So that is, the more knowledgeable and competent that a hospital department pharmacist is, the more likely they are to have a hidden stash of candy and NSAIDs in the nearby locked desk drawer. So this is basically a rule known by all veteran physicians and like most other hospital staff as well. And whenever you have a headache or you have like a deep lingering hunger in the middle of your day or your shift, if you know this rule, then you go to your nearest pharmacist in the department, you chat them up a little bit, and then you see if they'll let you rummage through their drawer of goodies that they definitely will have the more experienced they are. So there you go. That is Tyler's Rule.
It's always scary when they mix in the pills, though. They're like those are Skittles. These don't look like Skittles. Why do they have imprints on them? Why are they
like the adventure? I got to be honest with you.
Why do they
never
taste
know what
like
you're gonna
medicine?
They're also fun at parties. So
yeah.
If you had sent us a question and your name was not Tyler, we do still have those questions. And so if you listen along, you should likely hear those in future episodes as we go through them. So rest assured, you probably will win something, most likely an eponym, unless Mike gets your question correct. Which
what happens if I do that?
That hasn't
Does
happened,
the whole
right?
podcast just explode?
I think so.
That's
that
it.
probably is what
Can't
happens.
let that happen.
It's either
The
you win an
recording
eponym or
just
the show
stops.
goes into a black hole.
Yeah.
Appreciate the question, Tyler. Congratulations once again. And let's get to
That was a
our
good
main
one. That
topic.
was
a
very
good one.
Jeopardy-esque, yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Sometimes I do edit them a little bit. That one I just left as is. So what you got for us, Aaron? What did your friend Eric give us?
Yeah, I have a case, and what I'm going to do is I'll present the initial part of the case, and then we'll talk about some things. There's a bunch of terms to talk about and findings, and then we can kind of riff a little bit on how things. Yeah, they're
terms and conditions.
Both terms and conditions.
Did you read the terms and conditions, or just hit agree?
I just hit.
You have to scroll down. If you don't scroll down, it won't let you go forward.
Well, I scrolled down really fast and then just said agree. All right. So you're at work. We're all at work. We're all hanging out by the pharmacist candy bowl. And there is a new patient, a 38-year-old man who is brought in by his sister-in-law who says, yeah, you need to see my brother. He's really sick. Something's very wrong. He's just not himself. You start to talk to the two of them, and she's very worried, and he's kind of withdrawn. He says, let's call him Yuri.
His friends call him Nate.
No,
Yuri?
Nate? No, they don't. He's just been kind of declining. He's a very hard worker. He's been doing all this stuff, but he's just, things are getting worse and worse and worse. He's moody. That's all changed recently. He doesn't really want to talk to you much. He's kind of withdrawn, as I said.
Well, you're saying he's moody now and he wasn't before?
Well, I don't know. His name's Yuri. He's probably from the Eastern Bloc, and this is just his personality.
Yeah. That could be. And she says he's been having these severe headaches. Not necessarily every day, but it's been going on now for months at this point. And he's not had any prior testing or anything like that. He didn't used to have frequent headaches. And you're like, oh, that's
change
interesting.
in the pattern of his headache.
Yeah,
we should just ignore that and move on.
Yeah. No, it's probably not. And they are pretty severe at times. Sometimes he has to go lay down and rest or whatnot. You keep talking because you're interested and there's no one else to see. And she says, yeah. And then one time we were in Detroit on a train platform. They still have trains in Detroit, so that might give you a sense of when this is. And he just smelled, I don't know where he smelled burning garbage.
I've taken the train to Detroit. They still have trains.
That's just Detroit, though, burning garbage. Don't get off the train.
They weren't even on the train. They're on the platform. He's
Sorry,
like,
Detroit.
I smell burning garbage. And she's like, well, yeah, that wasn't that weird because we're in Detroit. He stole my joke.
Sorry.
Nobody else smelled it at the time. So no one else was there. No one else was like, oh, that's weird. I don't know. Yeah, okay, whatever.
And how long ago was that he's on a train platform?
That was a few months back. Yeah. And then since then, every once in a while, he'll just randomly complain that he smells burning rubber. It's like, what the hell? It just smells like somebody's burning rubber around here. And also, again, no evidence of burning rubber. And, it's his sister-in-law, so she works with his brother, so she was trying to tell him to go see the doctor, and they were ignoring each other and such. But now he just had a recent piano performance, and normally he's an excellent piano player.
Was this Yuri?
Yuri was playing the piano.
You're revealing a lot about this guy. It's way more interesting here.
Yeah, he's a laborer, but he's kind of a Renaissance man.
Well, he's not a laborer. He works hard, but he actually his work. You want to know? So he writes music and composes music. So he's a musician.
I totally thought
he's a hardworking musician. Yeah. No, not a laborer. I'm sorry. He works hard. His labor is music.
That doesn't sound well. It doesn't sound like he works a day in his life if he loves what he does.
Fair enough. But she says he doesn't even seem to be enjoying it anymore. I mean, he's just not himself. But during this performance, he messed up stuff he wouldn't normally mess up, and he seemed to have a lot of trouble playing. And then they thought he might even have blacked out a little bit, so they had to call the performance off. Kind of weird. That's never happened before.
Detroit really can ruin your day.
Yeah.
Plus, if you hit the wrong note, we'll all be flat.
That's so good. Yeah. And
can I stop you for 1 second, Aaron? Sorry.
Yeah. That's about it. So go ahead.
Oh, no, it's a callback to the last episode with Andre the Giant. I watched Princess Bride with my daughter. I heard the line, the Stones. And then I got so, I just cringed for myself and for Max. Because we were both just oblivious to that.
Plenty of messages on social media and sent to us where you guys didn't get that reference, and they were more disappointed in us than ever anything we've done before.
What are you gonna do?
Sorry about that.
No,
I apologize again for.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Not knowing
what do you? All right, what do you guys want to? What do you want to do if you're in charge of this patient? Give him some droperidol and send him on his way. Probably.
That's what Mike would do, but I would do a neurologic exam. That's what I would do.
Boo.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So you still have your little reflex hammer, which did you guys get a reflex hammer when you started school?
I had to buy one.
Born with them.
But
Fingertips.
yeah, I love you.
What?
My favorite's the
You-
stethoscope one.
You can do reflexes with your fingertips?
Yeah,
you
you
sure
don't need a
can.
hammer.
And if you have
Yeah.
a neurologist anywhere near you watching you do that, you get a free lecture.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Yeah. So you can put two fingers on the where you're gonna check the reflex and tap with your other two fingers.
So it's basically percussion. You just
Yeah.
percuss extra hard? Or just regular hard
Not
will
just
do
just
it?
regular hard. Yeah, it doesn't have to be extra hard. Just
You
regular.
It's more like where you do it because certain reflexes are triggered by certain areas. And what
Yeah.
you're doing is you're hitting, like, say, the knee, the patellar reflex. You're hitting the muscle in a place where, or actually
Not
the
hitting the
tendon,
muscle, yeah.
and you're basically stretching the muscle suddenly and causing this reflex loop where the signal goes back to the spinal cord. It causes the muscle above to contract, and then it makes you kick. And so if you're really not supposed to do it with two fingers, but I know a lot of people like myself do, or your stethoscope. You just
Yeah,
need something
that's what I do.
firm that will tap on the
Yeah.
area.
I don't know, Abla, if you've seen, like, if you can see a true neurologist, they have like a telescoping rubber boom
Oh, yeah. And it's like
reflex
a
hammer, and they're just
circle?
like, yep, and then they like
Yeah.
extend it so they get extra leverage. Yeah, we don't do
Can't
that.
you use your tuning fork to do that?
Impressive.
That's what I got. I got a reflex hammer and a tuning fork, and I was like, "Thank you." I don't know how I'm going to practice medicine.
Tuning
with these
fork is
things.
actually used in medicine. That's
It is.
Did you know that, Alba? Does that
I
ever
did
come up?
know that
Yeah, I was
for,
going to say it may have come up in some of your other work. Yep.
Neurologic, use the 128, and for auditory, use the 512.
Oh
and
wow,
then there's one
that's
in
more than
between,
I know.
right?
Yeah, it's
don't know.
definitely the frequencies I memorized for
Mhm.
the high pitch and low pitchy fork
Yeah.
that I definitely couldn't find in the department if I needed it.
Oh no, yeah, I know where they are.
The tuning
They're-
forks,
Yeah,
or
they're in the drawer facing that last hallway.
we have them. Wow. Okay. Well, so anyway, so even if you got your reflex hammer out and your tuning forks, anything else you do with a headache patient that they on a neurologic exam, like, do you look in their
Yeah,
eyes
let's do
or
pupil
anything?
exam.
Do you-
Yep,
Pupil exam. Okay. So
or eye
would-
exam.
Yeah. Okay. So you look at the pupils, they constrict and widen normally.
Mhm.
You look inside the eye and you don't see anything abnormal. He's
Conjunctiva
moving
normal.
normally. Everything looks normal. It's all a normal exam.
Yeah, eyes not
Now-
red.
No. Eye isn't red. No.
Olfactory sense. Can you check the smell?
You
Oh, that's the
can.
only one you don't check.
Yeah,
You
but
don't
always a
check
This
the
guy has a
smell?
smelling problem.
I know, but it's like cranial nerves 2 through 12 grossly
No, that
intact. They
Alba
don't say
just,
one.
this is like the one
She's
time
right,
that
though.
anybody
That's
would
a
ever
great question.
because we never
That's
think
a
to do
great question.
it.
Oh, wait a second.
Well, he
Yeah.
said he was smelling burning rubber too.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great. You're onto
Neurologia.
something there.
No,
yeah.
but what I'm saying is that on our exam, we don't do cranial nerve
No, we
1,
don't.
which
We
is
don't,
the
yeah.
olfactory nerve.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. We never check it. You could though. I
Was
mean,
there trauma?
there's
Sorry.
no trauma. No, there's
So
been
no
no
clear
reported.
like nasal discharge or anything like that.
Nope.
Hmm.
What are you thinking with that?
Thinking about
When
like a
you're running nose?
cribriform plate injury.
Yeah. So if you crack the part of your skull, right? So the cranial nerve 1 controls your smell, and it's very damageable. So
Mm.
it can get injured pretty easily. But yeah, that's or I mean, actually, that was in a movie. That was in Black Widow. Remember, she had to like break her nose so that she couldn't smell the pheromones that were mind controlling her.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
Good thing
think
she
it would
didn't
work
drive her
that
nose
well.
into her brain because that's the thing that can happen too for
Well, but
movies.
she did it just perfectly. She hit it just hard enough that it broke, but it didn't. Yeah.
Why didn't she just plug her nose?
That's what I was about to say. We're
Not as dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you
her,
break your mouth.
her hands would be
Oh, you're
busy
right.
keeping her nose plugged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then she couldn't punch. Right.
Those are some
Yeah.
brutal fight scenes. I did not like them.
And she had to reset. She reset her nose. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she could
Lots of
smell
things
again?
happen.
That's how that works.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's all normal. It's all this. Your
All the
neurologic
neurologic
exam
exam?
initially is neuro. Yes.
What about
so
neck stiffness? Does he have neck stiffness?
he does not have neck stiffness or fever.
Oh.
What do you think about there?
Fish it for meningitis, bacterial
Yes.
infections of the brain, or viral infections.
Yeah, I mean, it's old enough. There are still trains in Detroit, so we don't know. There may be pre-vaccine era. Yeah.
What,
Okay.
What about his tongue? Does he have any like black marks on his tongue? Just thinking if he's a composer, is he like potentially writing something? Is he licking a
Drinking
quill?
the-
Ooh, that's a great one. Yeah, like what would be what's in ink, right?
Lead?
Not lead.
Well, there's, yeah, I mean, it could be.
Mercury? No, not mercury.
That's
Molybdenum?
great.
No,
Sounds
selenium,
great.
not good.
Nope. Nope.
American.
manganese.
No. No, what's the differential diagnosis for this, gentleman? Headaches, withdrawn mood.
structural-
Wait, is this a time
mood
period where we
changes.
can get a CAT scan of the head? You're not gonna let us have that. No.
You can if like that's. Would you get one for this person?
Yeah, I mean, I feel
Yeah, I
like
would love to get one for this
Yeah.
person.
What makes you worried? Because we see a lot of headache patients, and we don't
Sure.
get a lot of I mean, well, I
the
don't know.
worrisome component would be like headache for months, worsening, some malaise, change in
Change in
affect.
character.
Yeah, you'd think like a
His-
tumor. Or,
Yeah, it's not able to
Something
do
bad.
his high functioning composer type job.
Yeah. Does it worry you the lack of coordination?
Wait, you didn't say anything. We said full
we
neuro
didn't ask
exam.
about it, Max. That's shame on us.
No, I said
He has a normal
multiple
neurologic
times.
exam, but he couldn't play the piano right.
Oh, did you try
Can you play
the
it left?
rapid alternating movements?
Ooh, that's a great
Ooh.
one too. Yeah, you can do
With
that.
well, Max and I talked about that
Dysdiadochokinesia?
recently, so it was.
Yeah, when you said full normal neurologic exam, I would have been looking finger to nose.
Yeah,
I would
we
have been
were-
looking all that
Yeah,
stuff.
cerebellar stuff.
So the documentation for this case, well, so let's jump to that. So this case occurred in 1937. So I don't have the medical records, and I have a discussion of what happened, but I don't have a specific. I tested dyskinesia, and it was not present, or any of the other things.
Dysdiadochokinesia.
Yeah,
What
I
does
know
that
I said
mean?
it wrong. I don't know what you brought it up, Mike. What did you? I
Dysdiadochokinesia?
forgot.
It just means
Dysdiadochokinesia.
yeah, abnormal rapid alternating movements. So you have
Oh,
them
yeah.
like you pat your hand back and forth. So often, if you do that, they'll go like front, back, front, back, back, front, back, back,
Oh.
front, 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 back, front, back, back, front.
Or
back,
they'll do
front,
it
front.
very slowly and not be able to do it rapidly, and it looks like they're having trouble basically putting their hand in space, like back and forth.
Mhm.
It's usually a problem with the cerebellum, which is the small part of the back of the brain, because your cerebellum governs a lot of the movements that you don't have to think about. So, when you reach for a pen or you reach for something on your desk, you don't have to consciously work too hard to figure out where to put your hand, because most of that is kind of rooted through the cerebellum. I am very much simplifying the neurology that I vaguely remember and mostly I forgot. But so when you do these things like dysdiadochokinesia, you should be able to flip your hand back and forth or do okay signs with your fingers rapidly, because you do those movements anyway. You don't have to think about them. But when there's a problem with the cerebellum, especially on the side that you're using, this is one of those areas of the brain where, if I remember correctly, it will affect the same side that it's broken. You'll see people like have trouble really bringing their fingers together in alternating movements. It's like really slow or labored, or as Mike said, they can make a lot of mistakes doing it. It's pretty impressive when you do see. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah.
But that's intact for this patient, right?
Well, what I have says a normal neurologic exam. So,
Okay.
but
But in
old
the
timey
30s, it
doctors.
was probably like they dump a bucket of ice water on their head and their pupils get big and then they slap them in the face. So like, all right, he's good.
You're good. I don't know, but actually, I mean, so a lot of the physical exam findings we're talking about were known by that time, and they didn't have a lot of other ways to evaluate people. So a comprehensive neurologic exam would have been very useful.
Yeah, and that was
Unfortunately-
one thing they had pretty well back then.
Yeah.
What about mental status exam, like orientation?
Yeah, so he does seem, I mean, kind of
with.
withdrawn. I mean, I would say they don't go into this either, but the symptoms that they list that she was bringing up is that he has rapid mood swings that don't seem to have a clear trigger. He does seem more withdrawn. He has more trouble concentrating. He doesn't appear, it doesn't sound like clearly tangential, but the early so the plan at this time was, wow, I think you need a psychiatrist, and we're worried about mental health issues with you because you got a normal exam. That was what was listed.
It's
And,
Ooh,
I think
can I-
this is probably
a
psych.
bad
So
start.
we're going to, yeah.
Can I
So that
just
was kind of
ask-
their plan.
Had he taken anything for treatment, like headache wise? Taken anything over the course of the past couple of months?
They didn't list anything, although I guess in the 30s, he certainly could have. There would have been a lot of patent medicines, I'm sure, that he could have tried. But
No mention. And did he
Yeah.
have any funny like visual changes? Did he say like he saw halos around things, or if he saw like green?
none of
and
that
yellow
was
colors?
reported.
Nothing
He
like
had it was just the striking, strange smells frequently. And he had those a lot, and they were very strong. But he didn't have any other listed hallucinations.
Does he wax and wane with this? Does he he's kind of with it sometimes, other times he seems withdrawn? Is there any sense of that? Like,
Yeah,
or is
well,
it
they do say
persisting
mood-
abnormality?
I say mood swings. So,
Yeah.
but he's like, she feels like he's just gradually declining. So you get called away and your partner says, I think he just needs a shrink and he should go home. And I don't think he needs
Partner's
anything
lazy.
else. I know. I sent him home and you're
Well,
like,
they've
well,
been
that
around.
was crazy, but it's 1937. I can't find him.
Yeah, there's
and,
no consequences.
there's
so,
no consequences.
at that time.
Malpractice doesn't exist yet. So that sounds great. So yeah.
But you're not going to
Unfortunately-
spoil it yet. We get to guess, don't we?
Oh, well, let's see. You want to
think
get
we
a
should
place
have
where you
known
want to put your
Should we
nickel
do a-
down?
Should we do a differential?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's do a differential. And then why don't you guys say what you think it is? Because the case will soon develop and then it becomes a little bit more clear.
Since
So-
I can't say what I think it is because I have no clue, can I say what I think might be part of it?
Yeah.
The brain?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the amygdala. Because of his mood swings.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got.
You just picking a part of the brain? You don't want to go
Yeah.
with medulla oblongata?
Oh,
Yeah. No, amygdala. That's what I'm going with. Hard.
Oblongata. Yeah. The amygdala is really
think-
interesting. Yeah. We don't really talk about it much anymore, right? Controls
It doesn't
basically
come up in
fear
emergency
response,
medicine a
right?
lot.
Yeah, fear.
It might. A lot of
Fight or
people
flight.
are
It's kind of- yeah.
amygdalotrophic.
That same neurologist that's giving me the lecture about the reflex hammers screaming at the podcast.
We're going to make a
player
lot of
right now.
neurologists mad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I need to come down to the emergency department more often and school these fools.
Well,
Okay. All right.
so I
So,
think-
differential amygdala. So brain process, right? What kinds
that's
yeah.
high on that differential. It's
Yeah.
the brain process.
What sorts of things would do this?
Well, you think pattern of headaches, right? So worsening or increased frequency, etc. Are they particularly bad in the morning? Do they say that?
They do not mention one way or the other,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah, with
He's a
position,
musician,
too.
so he doesn't keep normal hours. He probably wakes
Oh,
up at 4
perfect.
in the afternoon.
Okay, fair. But anyway, you start to think, especially with these other kind of odd symptoms change in his personality. You know, does he have a brain tumor? Does he have some sort of mass occupying lesion up in his brain that is causing some of these things?
Is there a tamping rod in his head?
No, there's nothing sticking out of his head.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You
You didn't
didn't ask.
perform a physical exam. You didn't ask.
Uh,
He's got a nail gun sticking out of
I
his
will
cheek.
say we
Yeah, no.
we as emergency docs, we're always kind of catastropheists, right? So we always think of
Yeah,
the
for
worst things
sure.
first and work our way back. But the other thing would be, some weird migraine presentation. Like I'm not saying it's my number one here because
Mhm.
catastrophes first, but certainly it's possible. But the other thing is interesting is the smell that comes and goes, etc. It makes me wonder about some sort of seizure activity
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
Because
initially.
sometimes you
Or-
get auras before seizures, or you get like a warning of it, and so that's certainly possible.
or
Hmm.
toxidrome.
It's always
I mean,
tox.
if this was a case written up, if you think about it that way, like
Mhm.
if the guy had a brain tumor, they wouldn't write that in a paper. Like this guy came in, he couldn't smell it, he had a brain tumor. I'm going to write my findings down for the world to see because this never happened before.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Brain tumors were
I
known,
feel like
right?
we're dealing with something uncommon.
Yeah. Tox would
Sure.
be, and it's the 30s, so everything's toxic, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
put
and
they
I
put
feel
like
like-
arsenic
Yeah.
in the pie and all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
Aaron probably mentioned Detroit for some reason. Like, why would he put that in there?
Motor City, motorboats,
Motor-related
Titanic,
things.
hypothermia. There's enough room on the door for both of them.
Titanic couldn't get to Detroit, could it? Could it fit up the St. Lawrence?
I honestly don't
It,
know.
it couldn't
Probably
go
not up
past
there.
Niagara, right?
You can get. I just don't know.
I know,
if
You
you
my
go
can
around
geography's
Niagara Falls,
bad.
don't you?
Yeah,
I don't
probably.
think boats
They
go
put everybody
flying
in the
over
barrel?
Niagara
Of course not. But
You
Take the
go
ship
Get
out,
enough
walk it.
speed, you'll land
oh
evenly.
God,
I
I
think
just
that's how it
said a
works.
stupid thing. Now I got
No.
all
Enjoy it,
Canada
though.
mad. Canada mad at me.
Not the first time on the show.
Go up the
Um,
falls, eh, hoser? They go around.
Take
man,
off,
now
you
they love
loser.
you.
All right.
And I would say, infections probably not highly likely just given the time course here, but it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
somebody
for a
with a
month.
change in personality and that sort of thing. Herpes simplex virus can do that, too, like encephalitis. But I'm not saying it's not high on the differential, but it's worth filling some airtime with
Sure.
a chat about it.
Did you say where in his head the pain is when he gets the headaches?
Oh, no, that's not clearly mentioned in the case. I'm going to say it's all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could just be a stuffy nose.
I don't.
Does he have a stuffy nose?
Just a really stuffy nose. It's made his mood really bad.
Well, as COVID showed, I mean, you can have infections, just respiratory infections that affect your smell. Nobody had like hallucinations of burning rubber, but it definitely affected people's smells. So
Wait,
Hmm.
is it
it could be
syphilis?
some. It's always syphilis. Yeah. And it's the 30s. Yeah. And he's here with his sister-in-law. I wonder what's going on there.
Well, and could he mentioned the incoordination. He could have had some strokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's
Could have
still
multiple
on there.
small strokes.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Could
still
have an
stick with
infection
tox,
around the
yeah.
heart, and he's just flicking off little bits of infection into the
Mhm.
brain and getting multiple tiny small strokes. Okay.
Does he have brain worms from pork?
Oh my God.
Yeah, you could get brainworms from pork. All right. Do you guys want to
not
say
dead.
a
Oh,
guess what you
skin.
think it is?
How about skin? Any rashes or anything?
Does he have skin?
Does he have skin?
He has
And
skin.
is-
There are no rashes. No rashes.
Did you check the entire body?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
No, it's the 30s, modesty and whatnot. I only
Mm.
looked at his what the
But
exposed.
I feel like in the 30s, patients
did
had
not
no
get into a
autonomy. You
gown.
could
Yeah,
just do
no, I
what you
truly
wanted.
think that they're just naked all the time. Like they stripped them down, they threw powder on them, and they're like, "Go stand in the corner. We'll get you in 10 hours."
No, he doesn't have any
That's
rashes.
frightening.
All right. So you guys are that's kind of your list. Do you want to guess what you think? It sounds like Mike's favoring some tox and
I like tox here.
Hmm.
He's a penis. He plays the piano.
He's a pianist. Yes,
Pianist.
that's correct.
Wait, how do you say it again?
Pianist
Pianist.
No,
with a T. Pianist.
There's a T on the end.
pianist.
An IA in the middle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you
I-
missed all that.
I think I'll play the other side of the coin a little bit and say I'm more worried about either seizure or tumor, or maybe a combination of those two,
All right.
in addition to tox.
All right. And we'll say, well, let's see. Where is the amygdala located in the brain? Oh my God.
Kind of
Is it deep
middle-ish,
brain,
right?
is
Deep in there.
Yeah. It is deep in there. So
Is it above
Okay.
above the thalamus, like surrounding the
Yeah,
thalamus?
I think so. Yeah. No, it's pretty deep. Yeah, that's just great that I remember all these things really well. Okay, so we are all working again about 2 weeks later. And
Wait, what did we do with him? We discharged him home.
Oh
Or
yeah,
like
he went
fine?
home
He went
and
to
they
psych-
yeah
to
they
psych,
wanted to get him a
right?
psychiatric consult. They were concerned about mental illness, but unfortunately, his family brings him back suddenly because there aren't any ambulances after he had a significant change in condition. So he was very out of it. He went up to go to the bathroom, and while he was on the toilet, this is the message: never ever go have a bowel movement. He passed out, and everything went to hell. So now he is unresponsive,
Ooh.
and he has some significant
Oh, wait.
changes.
You know what we didn't say? I know
Hmm.
we didn't say. We didn't say aneurysm.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
We
So
didn't say aneurysm.
yeah, now
Might
so
be
now
aneurysm.
he's
I mean, that
uh,
was structural brain. I think we got.
Yeah, I mean, we were all thinking structural.
well, but no, you're
Anyway.
right. So aneurysm is different, right? So aneurysm, a little bit of enlargement of the blood vessel, which can cause what are called sentinel headaches, where you get these bad headaches as the aneurysm enlarges. And they can be quite severe and they can be recurrent. And then at one point it gets big enough, it pops and then it bleeds, and that's terrible.
Well, that's why I was trying to put those together, but I didn't know if like that would affect the smell,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
vision.
I wonder if
Yeah,
an anterior,
smell,
Yeah,
Shouldn't,
you should think about it
unless
as
you had a
vision.
small bleed. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So they put him on the bed, 1930s bed. He is reported to have right facial paresis. He's
Hmm.
got
Not moving.
What? Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
paresis
not
just
moving
yeah,
on the right.
face isn't moving on the right, or it's so you'll lose the lines of your face and it'll look like you're
Oh.
frowning on that side because the muscles go slack. He's got meiosis reported, which is a little interesting. So his pupil is constricted on the right side, I believe. And they're unequal. He's not responding.
And that's what meiosis is. One pupil
Well, meiosis in general is just
small
constricted.
people.
Yeah.
constricted.
Mhm.
Okay.
But actually, you know what? It just reported meiosis in the report. So I'm just going to leave that there. That's what the report
Mm.
said. Meiosis.
Mm.
Could be
Was
both
he
sides.
sweating?
He looks ill, and yes. Yeah. He's
Was there sweating
kinda
on the side of
diaphoretic. Yeah.
the little pupil?
Oh, that's a great question. I cannot answer that definitively based on the information I have. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
So you're thinking, yeah, why are you asking?
Horner syndrome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like some compression of the what nerve is that now?
The mess up of the autonomic nerve,
Yeah.
nerves as they go into the head and eye.
So you think
Ah.
that they're usually when you look at these people, you think there's a problem with the other side because they have a really big pupil, but it's really the small pupil side. And typically there's going to be lack of sweating in that area because you don't have that autonomic nerve innervation.
Right. So some catastrophe
And-
occurs and it pushes on the nerve that goes to the eye. So that's how you can see, right? So the pressure causes dysfunction of the outer part of that nerve. And then you see those are some of the things you see that Mike's describing. So that it's a good sign of some horrible catastrophe occurring close to where that nerve is, which is like along the
or in the upper
base
chest.
of the brain.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Upper
it can
chest or
come from
neck.
an upper chest tumor, Pancoast tumor, right?
Yeah, you could do that too.
Happens.
Yeah.
It happens in and on the ganglion.
Oh, you look in his eyes again, and you're like, even though they're constricted, somehow you manage to do a fundoscopic exam.
Absolutely do not in 1930
That's
whatever. But go
the
ahead.
least. But they do it because it's reported that he has something called papilledema, and then he has retinal hemorrhages. So
Oh.
papilledema,
What
when
is
you
pap-
look in at the retina, it's actually it's pretty. It's like kind of a orangish color, and then you see arteries and veins inside the retina kind of branching out. There's usually 2 or 3 of them, and they kind of go with each other, and they come out of a little very clear circle in the center. And on a normal eye, you see a clear line, a little brighter circle where all the vessels come out of. When you have papilledema, that looks like a sink is overflowing and it's all red and like swollen, and it just looks wrong. And
Storm clouds in the background.
and if the retinal hemorrhage would show up as like bleeding in the retina, so you would see spots of red.
He's got
Oh.
thrombosis.
Maybe
Dural-
yes. I mean,
he's
it's
got
dural
sinus
venous
thrombosis.
Wrong.
Oh. I did not come up with that earlier.
I know. I was actually going to say subdural on the tentorium. I honestly didn't even think of this.
We might need to talk a little bit about all
Yeah,
this
we
stuff
got some words.
we're throwing around. Yeah.
When should we start with thrombosis? Maybe.
Okay.
I know. Okay.
So
Wait
just
a second.
generally,
So Eric gave you this?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that was the other thing. I kind of had premature closure bias, thinking it was going to be tox.
I think we know
Yes,
who
fair.
Eric is. So yes. Okay, but so thrombosis is clot, just basically a blood clot. And so we keep saying sinus thrombosis. Sinus can refer to a lot of big veins. The sinuses you think of are kind of the spaces in your skull where everything gets plugged up, but we also call some of the big veins in the brain in and around the skull sinuses too, just because things have to be more complicated because medicine. But one big sinus is the cavernous sinus, like right behind your eyes, right where your olfactory, that being the smelling nerve, goes kind of in and around. You can get a clot in there, and they can cause headaches, and they can cause basically blood to not be able to get back from your eyes, so your retinas can start basically, kind of internally exploding and bleeding kind of thing. And I can imagine if that clot's sitting there, it could cause all kinds of weird other neurologic symptoms.
Mm-hmm. This is why you
This
don't
is actually
pop zits on your nose in the triangle of death, which is a thing. I remember this in my textbook.
Yeah,
You're like
right?
not
The
supposed
T-zone?
to. Yes.
I like
This is a
watching
triangle
Alba's
of
expressions
death.
as we start saying these
You
things.
didn't know that?
Yeah, y'all. I got a lot to worry about.
rub that-
now.
don't rub your
Oh, I'm
nose.
sorry. Yeah, I do. I mean, the stressed out thing where you rub where
Don't do
glasses sit. I don't wear
You're gonna
glasses,
die.
but I rub it anyway. All right, I'm not doing it. There are a lot of things I can't do anymore.
Well, if that gets infected and you get a zit there and you pop the zit and it goes inside, then it goes to your brain and you.
I knew about
I'm
this
sorry,
in high
I'm
school,
laughing.
and I don't
it really
know.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I have adult acne, and I've had teen acne my whole life. So I've always done that. Now I'm like, how many
Maybe you
times have I
built up-
dodged?
Did you
death?
almost die?
You built up an immunity.
Yeah. I think it's very rare
Maybe
that
my
that would
bone
actually
is just
happen.
extra thick there.
Maybe you just have a
So-
clot in there all the time. It's like you're not going to get any worse.
Yeah.
Okay, that would explain a lot.
So the papilledema in general, though, too, is just a sign of increased pressure. So you have a ton of swelling in the brain, and that reflects, like, really, if you think about it, when you're looking at somebody's retina, you're looking at their brain almost. That's the closest to the surface that you can actually look at their central nervous system. And so there's a lot of increased pressure. At first he has some increased reflexes now. So when we check him, like his reflexes are very brisk, and then they decrease, and then he develops a Babinski sign.
Oh, Babinski, very nice.
Yeah. So when you take that reflex hammer and you turn it upside down, and you got a little like metal edge on the side, and you run it up the bottom of somebody's foot, the normal thing to do is curl. You curl your toes. And a
And
Babinski.
go, ooh.
Or don't ever do that again, you terrible human, right? I would hate it. But a Babinski sign, your toes do this weird thing where they flare up and out kind of slowly, and then they kind of extend. So
Honestly,
instead of
mine do that all the time.
You have
I'm
a chronic.
ultra ticklish. Yeah. I actually get really severe myoclonus if somebody does that. They'll do that and I'll draw my leg up and be like, ah.
Myoclonus?
It's where
Yeah,
your
like that.
muscles, like, yeah,
They flap.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
They flap.
Yeah.
Your muscles flap. Myoclonus. Where's the neurologist?
Right. I'm taking these words with me, y'all.
There's going to be a lot of editing, Max.
Yeah. So the Babinski sign, we learned this, and this was another one of the ones. I think the neurology course in medical school for the physical exam was the one that had the most things that you had to learn. All the other ones were like, do you hear the heart? Great. And then neuro was like, okay, here's the 50 signs you have to learn. And Babinski was definitely one of them. So I've done a lot of these. I think I've seen one positive.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really rare.
Yeah, it's kind of rare.
true. I can remember. Yeah.
And it indicates some problem with the brain as well. So, but I don't know. I'll link in the show notes a description of this sign if people are interested. I think it was Stanford that predictably said it's proof that doctors can make decisions with just a physical exam, but no, plus you already know it's a brain problem and it wouldn't change what I would do. So I think in modern,
It means bad things are happening.
terrible things are happening.
But you already know that the second you walk in the room.
Yeah,
you're like,
you didn't
"Oh,
need to-
shit, I knew I should have admitted that guy. God.
Yeah, right. You call the neurologist. Like, well, did you do a Babinski? Be like, he's in a coma and he can't. Yeah, no, I sent him to CT scan.
His toes didn't move.
Yeah. Okay, so we'd send this guy immediately to scan. Well, we'd probably intubate this gentleman, right? I mean, because he's not responding
Now
well.
we would. I would
Right.
send him to scan.
I was going to say it
before
depends on his
and
GCS, but
discharging.
I didn't want to say it because I didn't want you to ask me what it was because I have
GCS
to
is-
still
Yeah,
use
but would you
MGCS.
Yeah,
please
what's
ask him what a
GCS?
GCS is?
Glasgow
what's a
coma
GCS?
scale. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Only if you
Glasgow
get in
coma
a car
scale.
accident in Scotland.
Is that the right? Is that where? Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, so
Glasgow, that's where Scotland is. Wait.
it's a 15 point.
Scotland is in Glasgow.
Yeah,
There we go.
it goes from
Okay.
3 to 15.
Other way around. Reverse
I
it.
know.
Double
I
tap.
It goes from 3 to 15, and it measures your eyes, whether they open, your speech, and your movement. And if you're going into a coma, it's a measure of how bad the coma is, basically.
I mean, it's kind of a level of alertness thing. We're
Yeah.
all GCS 15 right now, but if you close your eyes and keep them closed, technically you're 14.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
unless somebody, if they come in and yell at you and
she's
you open
following
them.
directions. Never mind, 15.
But I'm not talking, so that
No.
makes you a
I
13.
followed directions.
So it makes you a 12.
If you get really drunk, you can get down to a 14 pretty easily because your
So,
speech gets all
I think the important thing here is
unintelligible.
lower the score worse.
Yeah.
It's not,
GCS
you don't
of
want to play
eight,
golf
ENTB.
Getting
with
closer
GCS.
to
Yeah.
the coma you're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would probably place this patient on a breathing machine and send him immediately to the CT scanner. There's no trauma. He just passed out. So we'd get that.
I got to worry about increased intracranial pressure. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
That intubation might
yeah.
be dangerous. Might have to pick your agents correctly.
You would have to worry about elevated intracranial pressure. But since it's 1937 in this case, instead they decided to do lumbar puncture.
Ooh, Spinal
Mm.
tap.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to finish him.
They did.
Finish him.
Aw.
So this would
You
be
wanna
Hi.
Does that happen in this case?
well, it didn't help. Yeah. So this is a classic. It's a huge no-no. This would, if I did this on a test today, I would fail. If I went to my medicine boards and I said, "Hey, I'm going to do a spinal tap on this gentleman," I would 100% fail that portion of the test. Because when you do a spinal tap, you put a little needle into the space around. Anatomists are going to yell at me again. You're going into whatever space it is where the CSF is circulating.
You're going in.
Yeah.
So you're putting it into the spinal.
Not
Into the
Now.
spinal cord, right?
Yeah.
You're putting a
Yeah.
needle.
Don't
Through
put it in the
epidural.
spinal
Not in the
cord.
cord. Not in the
No,
cord.
not
You're
in
going
the
to the
spinal.
space.
Well, I'm not
dural
doing
space,
it at
yeah.
all.
Right. And so you're getting fluid out of there, which circulates all the way from the brain down to the spinal cord and back. And you also can measure the pressure in that system because it's a closed system. And the reason you don't do it when somebody has any sort of elevated pressure or space occupying lesion is that you are suddenly creating a valve at the bottom of this system, and the pressure will drop, and it will literally like suck the brain down into places it shouldn't be and put pressure on the brain. It is the place
That's
it would
when patients
happen
get pissed.
now is if you do lumbar punctures without imaging or empirically, especially in like the meningitis belt in Africa where kids they're unimmunized and they get really severe brain infections and they have increased pressure, you can cause what's called herniation of the brain where it just sucks down. And yeah. So in this case, they did this, and the opening pressure. So you put you measure a little valve to see how much pressure is inside this system. And normal for you and all of us is anywhere from 6 to 25. It's measured in millimeters of water. His opening pressure is listed as 400. So he had
It's really high.
Yeah, he had
6 to
insanely
25
high.
is
blown out the
normal.
top.
Yeah, and
You'd have been
And he
covered
had
in
400.
CSF.
he
That
had
would've been
400.
gross.
Yeah, and so this is beyond it. Literally, like we have a tube. You got to take one tube. You put it on the end of a needle, and then you have a little stopcock. It's called, and then you have a glass tube, and then you have another plastic thing, and then you have a longer glass tube, and it's about 2 feet high. If you really like put it all together, it would have shot out the top because I think it only goes up to a couple hundred. So he would have
Gross fountain.
Yeah. I can't believe they did this.
So lots of pressure in his spine to brain system.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That ain't good.
No,
right?
it's very
Yeah,
bad.
No, it's bad.
Uh,
There's less pressure now.
yeah, they fixed that. And he sort of predictably started to slip into a coma. Yeah. So
I feel like he was already pretty much
yeah.
there.
So he rapidly kind of declines. So let's see how much we want to talk about what might be. What do you guys think is sort of, what are you worried about now? If
Litigation.
The skill
After
of
your
the
partner
physician
sent him
seeing
to
him.
psych.
Oh, I guess I'll cut the 1930s physician some slack, but
So what
Yeah.
problem is going to whatever process here is terrible, but from an ER standpoint, we're going to call who we call a neurosurgeon, right? I mean, we need somebody to help us with this, but in the meantime, what are we kind of worried about?
So he has some sort of mass or infection near that area of the blood vessels that's causing his increased intracranial pressure.
you
Whatever
could
it
have like a
is.
brain
Slow-
abscess, or you could have a big tumor.
It's
Basically, that
probably
is
tumor, right? Based on the time course.
Yeah,
feel
I
like
mean,
abscess would
absent
probably
any
be a week or
fevers,
two.
really,
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. I'm kind of with you on that.
Can we put those in regular words? The
intracranial
Mike said
pressure,
the
right?
intracranial
Right. So, I mean,
pressure.
Yep.
It was we went over the words, but it was just a
Yeah.
lot all at a time.
well, the intracranial pressure, I mean, inside the skull, right? So that's that 400. So that's how you know.
Mhm.
You knew that already because you could see on the eye exam that he had that evidence of the swelling. So this guy and
The
the coma,
papilledema
it
you
all
talked
kind of
about.
goes together. The increased pressure is pushing the brain in places it doesn't want to go, right? So
And that's the thrombosis in the
that's one
sinus
possible
too?
cause that
Okay.
would potentially do some of these things, but really they're all the
Maybe
same
not that high.
thing when it
Yeah.
gets to that elevation of pressure, because the pressure is so high, whatever thing is causing the pressure is going to push the brain over or across or down in a process called herniation. So you have inside your brain,
Okay.
if you open up your skull, you have the brain is in there, but then you also have these very firm sort of central structures that I think are called venous sinuses, right? So you have in the tentorium, and there are all this kind of things that kind of hold things in place, and then they help
falx
drain
cerebri.
they help drain the blood out, but they also are very, very stiff and immovable. And if you push the brain across, it's like pushing it, it gets squeezed completely, and that's called
Oh,
herniation.
gotcha.
Yeah, your skull doesn't expand, and so as the pressure
And
builds
that's
up
the
inside the
herniation.
brain, yeah, exactly, the brain has nowhere to go, so
Yeah.
it starts
Except for down.
sliding down out of the skull,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, you can go
really bad,
sideways
'cause then it
or
smashes the brain stem, and a lot of bad stuff.
sideways
happens.
is maybe, I don't know which one is worse. They're all horrible. And then if
Sideways
you go
is
straight
okay. It's got
down,
really-
if you go
yeah.
down, that's awful.
Down is bad,
So-
so that's where the brain stem is.
Right. So your brainstem has all your sort of critical backup systems. Like there are all these things in your brainstem that are tiny and probably primitive, but they help maintain your breathing and they help do all these different things. And when you squish down, you kind of ruin all that stuff. So yeah, it's terrible. So these types of cases, there's a lot of fun, old timey, very quick, very exciting, and also sometimes very futile type of medicine. So we'll do things like you can give people mannitol, which is like a really fun medicine because it's a huge amount and it gets salt on your shoes and it sprays all over everywhere when you're trying to pull it out of the bottle. You give that to kind of pull.
And it comes in a glass bottle.
Right. So you're trying to just do anything to pull some pressure probably into the blood system, right? So you're creating chemistry.
Yeah,
gradient.
basically, you're
I'm
putting a
tired.
huge amount of it's like mannitol is like a sugar,
Mhm,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
So you're putting this ton of like this sugar that really doesn't get absorbed in your body. It just stays in the bloodstream. And what it does though is it makes an osmotic gradient and pulls fluids. So basically what happens is you put it in the bloodstream, it circulates through the brain and tries to pull fluid out of the brain. And then when you put somebody on mannitol, it's a huge volume, like Aaron said, and so they start peeing like crazy. So this gentleman would have had a catheter in anyway because he's not alert. But you literally, as it goes in the vein, you almost start seeing it come out within minutes, like just peeing, and it's just trying to suck fluid from the brain through the bloodstream and get rid of it in the kidneys. It's a desperate move.
The other thing we'll do is we'll do hot salt or a bullet. Those are the slang for these things. So normally we give people 0.9% saline as a fluid because it's relatively similar to what our blood is in simple terms. Now the chemists will be mad at me too. But then you can give somebody 23.5, I think, percent saline. So it's this ultra concentrated salt solution. So you just give somebody a huge amount of salt. Same thing. You increase the salt in their blood and it pulls water and fluid and anything out of the brain into the blood. But it's all temporizing, right? You're all just trying to buy time so that the brain doesn't squish until the neurosurgeon gets there to try to relieve the pressure. And in a case like this, they'd look at a CT scan and then it probably would take off half the skull and just let it swell that way. So you can try.
They would do the CT scan first to see if there is the swelling before they actually can remove part of the skull nowadays to relieve pressure.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because you'll actually see the brain expanding out of the skull.
Could you do a burr hole first, wouldn't you?
If
or put in a drain or a bolt.
Yeah, there are a lot of things.
I think it would depend on the cause.
Yeah. I would refer people to our trephination episode. I think that was number 7 or 8. That was an early one.
12.
And you make holes in the skull for. So yeah, if there's a localized place of bleeding, it's the same problem. It pushes your brain through and it herniates the brain somewhere if you don't stop that bleeding. So that's when you can do a little burr hole and let it come out. This guy sounds like a medical cause. So
yeah, I think you gotta know what you're going after here.
Yeah. But that's what we would do. I mean, I think modern neurosurgeons, they'd be down there right away. I think we'd be able to do some of these things, but this would be a matter of, you got to.
I don't think we haven't connected all the dots here, though. Have you given us the whole diagnosis? Because that would probably change exactly.
Yes, but there's some more that we should talk about. I mean, so. After they
is this a famous person too?
Well, we'll see. Yes, it is a famous person. So you can start thinking about who you think it is. So it's not
Beethoven.
The sister-in-law was like, you need to get me the best neurosurgeon in anywhere. And I don't know if there are any. This case happened in Los Angeles. So he had been to Detroit, but that was on a trip. And now they're in LA. That's where they live. And so the sister called her friend Emil, who called his friend Harvey, who was a fancy neurosurgeon in Boston from Los Angeles. Harvey is retired, but he's very good. He recommended Walter, but he said Walter's fishing in the Chesapeake Bay with Harry, the governor of Maryland. So
he's busy.
Emil called the White House and I like to think FDR himself called the Coast Guard to go get Walter off the boat in the Chesapeake Bay and fly him to Los Angeles in 1937, 38.
Okay.
It didn't work. It's so late. That would take so long.
Yeah, it's going to take forever.
Yeah, no, they got like minutes or hours. So
paper airplanes and stuff back then.
Yeah. So Walter was on the way, but they decided to take him to surgery anyway to try to decompress the problem, and it didn't work. He died, but what they did is they took out a very large brain tumor, which they thought was probably a glioblastoma, which is the worst kind of brain tumor anyway, right? So he had a very bad tumor. But then what happened was, in this case, what they think happened is that he herniated, he herniated down, and he had what's called direct hemorrhages. It's French, so it's probably not pronounced that way. So when he pushed down, it squished the bottom part of the brain, and the brainstem, which controls all your functions, bled. And then, he died from that. So, even if you had a good doctor, neither one of these things are really easily survivable.
Oof.
Yeah. No, so it's a glioblastoma case, which is, they're thinking that the smell change, the olfactory hallucinations are probably related to temporal lobe epilepsy. So the portion of your brain that, it can be very silent, and it controls a lot of parts of cognition like memory and so on. So when you have seizures in that portion of the brain, it can just cause maybe confusion or in this case, olfactory hallucinations, or sometimes it'll be other, strange lapses of attention or something else like that, or other hallucinations. And it's not the standard shaking seizure that you would think because of the part of the brain where it's working. So they're thinking that's probably what that was. And then the headaches were the pressure building up. And then, of course, it gets a bad enough tumor that it's going to start to affect his cognition. And then the final straw that killed him was just that sudden change in pressure. It's hard to say exactly, why he went into the coma and then sort of so rapidly decompensated. The lumbar puncture didn't help. I mean, they could have actually caused a little herniation there. I'm not sure, but
I think he was going that way anyway.
It was.
I think that was.
He was already written.
Yeah.
But so he did not have the thrombosis.
Nope. This was
so
all.
Basically,
I
he had
thought he
such
did.
extreme
glioblastoma.
pressure inside his head that it probably was affecting his blood drainage from the brain. Yeah, and basically, so it mimicked that. So
yeah,
cool.
they attributed these
Not cool
hemorrhages were described by Henry. Well, it's Henri Duret probably, but I will just say Henry Duret. I don't know. Old, apparently racist Frenchman. They just mentioned that at the end. You're like, hey, this guy was really smart, and at the end he's like, oh yeah, he wrote about racial superiority, but we don't really talk about that. This was 1837, or I think, when he first did his work on all these different 1878. So he had all this correct. I mean, he kind of watched what happened to brain injured patients and patients with tumors, and he sort of accurately described what happens when you have herniation and when you have severe injury, that central part of the brain either gets knocked back and forth, or there's swelling that pushes on the brainstem or the base of the brain. And that is 100% what we have to deal with today with severe injury. And he described all these things, but the guy actually got it completely right in 1878. So the case is kind of, they're like, oh, he had Duret hemorrhages, which are this person sort of first described. And it's 1930. It's a piano player. You guys want to guess who this is? Because it's definitely a famous person.
Gershwin?
It is
Chopin.
It's Gershwin. Yeah, this is the story of George Gershwin.
Damn.
Did you know that already? I wouldn't even know that. That's
No,
a
I did. I
composer.
was guessing just piano player in the time period. That's,
U.S.
The only
Yeah.
piano
That's
player
amazing.
you know in the 1930s. Yeah.
Gershwin is actually one of my favorite. If I could name a few classical artists, if you want to call, he's kind of like a transitional figure, I guess. But he's just one of my favorites. When
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Hum a couple bars.
Rhapsody in Blue,
that's the and I don't know how to hum
Summertime,
Rhapsody in Blue.
Embraceable
You
You.
whistle or click it.
You've heard it. I'll tell you, you've heard it. There we go.
Oh, lost my range.
That's
play it for
Yankee
you later.
Doodle Dandy.
Did you? So United Airlines used it as their theme song in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that,
Yeah.
they had that piano
This
part.
is the
at
new
end.
show. It's just
Yeah.
going to be Aaron humming and whistling.
So
Yeah.
he was born. That's why I called him Yuri. So Yuri is the nickname for Georg, and he's born to Russian Jewish immigrants in 1898 in New York. They fled due to prejudice, and thankfully escaped anti-Semitism in the U.S. So that didn't exist in the 1930s. So he left school at 15, which is crazy. He earned a living writing songs. Him and multiple members of his family did. At Tin Pan Alley, which is where there was a lot of the jazz age sort of musicianship came up, and he wrote many musicals. So Porgy and Bess is a famous one, which has the song Summertime in it. Rhapsody in Blue is like a symphony that he wrote, which melded jazz and classical music. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty amazing life. And he did all this, I think, quit school at 15, and he died when he was 38. If you hear I Got Rhythm, that's one of his, apparently. And Embraceable You, if you like old jazz songs, those two are his. Yeah, and he had a long partnership with his brother Ira, and it's Ira's wife who tried to help. He has, oh man, I'll forget. People are Gershwin fans are now going to be mad at me too. He had a longtime flame, but I don't know why she didn't take him to the hospital. So it was his sister-in-law that tried to save him.
And he was well known enough so the president story of the White House that happened.
Yeah, I think it's
Well known enough that
that's
they really wanted to save him. Like he's a national.
So yeah, like they're
treasure.
calling the 6 degrees of separation. They had gotten to the president to try to get somebody to save him. I
Did they
can't
start
believe
with
there
Kevin
weren't.
Bacon?
Yeah, I can't believe there weren't neurosurgeons in LA though. That's the thing. But
They're all plastic surgeons.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the thing is, this is sad, but glioblastoma is, as of this day, still very, very hard, if not impossible to treat. So he would have had trouble regardless.
It is true. Well, on that up note, I think that we can leave it there. So always got to ask Alba, the most acclaimed medical history intern in the history of the business and the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most interesting thing you learned today.
I gotta stop popping zits on the bridge of my nose.
Good.
That's what I learned.
Take one
That
point.
is, of all the important things I learned today, that's the biggest.
Yep, there you go.
most
To
important.
be clear, I don't think it had
Death.
anything to do with this case, though. Aaron was just trying to scare you.
Yep.
No,
yep,
it didn't.
yep.
I'm scared after every episode.
I'm
I gotta say,
glad this
Alba,
is
like
healthy
you picked
for
up on the smell problem right away, though. That's like, yeah, you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. You can't just smell stuff that
Oh.
isn't there.
Yeah.
And I look
Yeah,
forward
you're
to
not
all
supposed to
the
do that.
emergency department visits of people smelling stuff that aren't there next week.
I know. That's
Perfect.
what I was thinking. That same thing. Like, can't smell.
Well,
a cat scan.
we do appreciate everyone listening, and we'd love to hear from all of you out there. If you'd like to check out our merchandise or provide feedback, we can be reached through our website, www.forhistorianspod.com. And I should say we did refresh some of our merchandise designs, so if you want to give it a look. There you can send us messages as well and find links to our social media sites. We do work to respond to all posts on our various social media accounts, and if you want to participate in the show, use our site to send us a medical history trivia question for Mike. If you have time, please go and leave us a nice 5-star review on iTunes or whichever platform you choose. And if you enjoy what we're doing, take a moment, tell somebody about the show. And if they don't listen to podcasts, just ask them, like, why not? And then explain what a podcast is and why you like the show and why you like podcasts. And then once you form that good rapport with them, then you recommend the show, because that's a much better way of doing it. Well, with that, though, until next time, the Core Historians will be signing out. AMA.
I was pointing at Aaron's laundry. It's
Oh,
usually
yeah,
all
it's
done.
back. It's back. No, thank God we're not.
Well, I told him he wasn't going to be on video, so
It was never done. Like it got moved to the chair and then it stayed there, and then I
it's the
failed.
That
same
is a
pile of
respectable
laundry.
pile.
It's back.
It's the
I
same
know,
pile
but-
that's always been there. He
You're
actually has
doing
never
laundry
done
for
it.
the lacrosse team.
It's the accumulation of stuff that the kids don't take out of the laundry room over the years. So it's, they do their own laundry, but they don't take everything. And
Just
then,
Marie
yeah.
Kondo that stuff.
Well, I'm about
Grab
to.
it. Does it bring you
but
joy? No. Just check
No,
it.
doesn't. No, it does not bring me joy.